Okay, I'm going to be honest with y'all. In filming this video, initial thoughts, like before I get into anything having to do with the subject matter of this Bookish discussion, I am terrified. I am terrified to be doing this video because of the fact that I know it may open me up to death threats, rape threats, stuff in the racism in the community, like in terms of things, all in the name of this respective fandom and author in terms of things. And I'm going to be very clear with y'all. I am 0% tolerant of any kind of cyberbullying, bullying, dehumanization, racism, any of the isms or phobias in terms of things. And I will not tolerate that on my channel. Telling y'all now, if I see it in my comments for this respective video, if I see any dehumanizing behavior of any sort, like towards the people that I'm going to be talking about in this video, you will be blocked. I want that to be very clear to start with. I do not want that kind of behavior on my channel, period. And I need y'all to understand that before I get into anything that has to do with this respective discussion in terms of things. And, you know, it's very rarely am I horrified by things that happen in the bookish community. Like, I've witnessed multiple scuffles, examples of being like dehumanization within the book community, like, and things of that nature. But I think this one takes a cake for me. And I have to be honest with y'all that I'm not going to be silent about it. And I don't care what kind of comments you hurl my way. I don't care how, like, the ways that you try to gaslight me or do anything in terms of stuff. I will speak up about this because I am passionate about it. And what y'all did to Sameera in the name of the Legendborn community and Tracy Deonn was fucking horrible. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in this video. Hi everyone, my name is Rose, also known as TA Summers. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a bookish discussion, and I think the title of this video is going to be on the cyberbullying of Sameera, talking about the Legendborn community, essentially what happened following Sameera's experience at BookCon with Tracy Deonn, and the backlash that happened after that point, and that is still going on even right now in terms of things. I am horrified. I am horrified at the level of gaslighting, the dismissal of another person's feelings and experiences that have resulted. Like, I cannot tell you how horrified I am to have witnessed all these happen over the course of almost a month now. And when I was planning to do this respective video, like, I told myself, I was like, okay, I am going to make this as constructive of a video as I possibly can, and not just spend the whole video yelling, because that was very tempting for me to do that for this respective video. But it's horrifying when you're on the outside looking in and seeing all this unfold, and you recognize exactly what it is based on the interactions in terms of things. And the fact that it's like, I've seen very few people speaking up in defense of Sameera, like in terms of things, and even not even saying her name. They are making content on their channels for likes and everything else, dehumanizing Sameera without even saying her name, supposedly not saying her name either to protect her when she's getting abused, like, you know, like, regardless in terms of things, or that they don't want to feature her voice because it would undermine their point. And you know what? I feel very, very strongly about how disgusting that is. We're going to talk about it in this video. I'm going to probably start off with a couple of things, disclaimers and other things, before we get into the heart of this respective discussion. But again, as I said in the very beginning of this video, I will not tolerate certain types of behavior, like in the comment section of this video, or even like towards like the people who are going to be discussed in this video, because the point of this respective video is to shed a light on this situation and take it to terms and stop it before it even has a chance to even continue. So we're going to get into it, and we'll start right now. Before I go too much further in, let me give a series of disclaimers on what this video is going to be and what it isn't. To first put a pin in it in terms of very definitively, this is not going to be a video that participates in the smear campaign of Tracy Deonn or Sameera. Let me be very clear about that in terms of things. This video is a discussion in terms of what happened, what has been happening over the past several weeks in terms of the aftermath of Sameera meeting Tracy Deonn at BookCon and the videos that were posted on Sameera's TikTok and the follow-up to that. There may be very specific people that I talk about in this video, some of whom I'm going to specifically mention that I will never read their books again based on the behavior that I witnessed in this exchange in terms of what their reactions were. And y'all can kind of like I'll make a mention of one person in particular who has done this before in terms of participating in a cyberbullying campaign in terms of stuff, and you would think she would know better, but clearly not based on this. And I want y'all to understand that in terms of the takeaway from this, critique is not hate. If there's something that you take from this video alongside with the definitions of cyberbullying and what it looks like and what to do if it happens to you, as well as speaking in support of Sameera in terms of her experience with this, critique is not hate. And you're like, when you have an experience where you're talking about your feelings and how someone else makes you feel, that is not hate. Your feelings are valid. There was nothing here that went into, like, from Sameera's part to go into, and I'll talk about it a little bit later in this video in terms of one argument, which I was like, I'm throwing that away. Like, we're going to discuss the illogic of that. But there was nothing that Sameera did that participated in the like an ism or a phobia. Like here, there was no racism from Sameera's part. There was no phobias from Sameera's part in this. Being very clear-eyed about it, and we're going to talk about why. But we are going to also talk about the fact that Sameera has been getting Islamophobic, xenophobic, and racist bullying in the name of Tracy Deonn based on this particular incident and the fact that she spoke about it on social media. What other things am I going to say for disclaimers about this video? This is going to be, I'm going to try to be as nuanced as I possibly can in terms of being a person from the outside looking in on this particular thing. I've witnessed a lot of bookish exchanges in terms of things that have gone horribly wrong. I've witnessed Hale No, if y'all remember Kathleen Hale going after a reviewer on Goodreads and basically like going to this woman's house and stalking her, and then writing, and Kathleen Hale also writing a Guardian article. I remember that. I remember the campaign saying hell no on Twitter in terms of stuff when that happened. I also remember, and this is going to be directly referenced later on in the video when I'm talking comparisons, I remember what happened with respect to Sarah Desson and Brooke Nelson in terms of the exchange that happened there. And the fallout that happened in terms of things. At least Brooke Nelson was able to speak up against all of that in terms of things. And rightfully so, a lot of people were, like a lot of the authors, readers, and other people who were participating in that pile on behalf of Sarah Desson, including Sarah Desson herself, were called out on that. So yeah, I remember that particular event very, very vividly. But I have to say that this, like the way that the Legendborn community, authors, readers, people like who witnessed this across multiple platforms horrified me and was way worse than what happened with Sarah Desson and Brooke Nelson. I would say this was worse, and the fact that there's not enough attention being brought to it in terms of stuff, especially since Sameera is a young Black Muslim woman, I think we need to talk about that. I think we absolutely need to talk about that and how much harm was done to Sameera. The other disclaimer that I'm going to put on this is This is not going to be a critique of the Legendborn series or anything like that. I've already done videos in terms of expressing my thoughts with the 3 books that I like. This is not going to be a bookish discussion in the sense of discussing the actual Legendborn series, but it's going to be talking about the book community's reaction to Sameera, and specifically the Legendborn community. And I think people, and I'm going to also reference this later on in the video in terms of things, I think people are reading this wrong if they see it as an author versus reader conflict. I think this is more of, because it involves authors, because it involves readers, because it involves other people in the community who piled on to Sameera, I think this is Legendborn stans versus Legendborn fans. And there's going to be a reason why I say that distinction later on in this video in terms of things in terms of the toxicity, where this community is feeling more and more like a cult, a toxic cult, an abusive cult. And we are going to talk about that. We're going to absolutely talk about that. Before I go too much further in this video, I want to give a direct message to Sameera in this section of the video. So that's going to be what this part is before I dive into the things that actually happened. So I want to center Sameera. I want to address her directly. I'm going to try to see like if I can keep it together and not have too much of this, you know, getting too emotional and having to do multiple edits, because editing Rose is probably going to have a nightmare with this video. But here is my message to Sameera. Sameera, lovely, I am so sorry that this happened to you. I know you probably thought that you were posting a video where you were venting about your experience, your unfortunate experience meeting your favorite author at BookCon. You thought it was probably going to be a one and done deal, talking to like your inner community in terms of things, in terms of your experience and how much of a bummer it was. I didn't see the first video that you posted on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I'm usually like staying like in either Blue Sky space or YouTube, like, because I'm a booktuber. But I did see like the 2 videos, like the video that followed up after the first video where you are at the BookCon signing with Tracy Deonn. I saw your follow-up message in terms of you expressing that BookCons could absolutely better. I applaud you for being constructive through all of this situation in terms of things, and asking what can we do better to be foster more community and kindness in these kinds of events. I think that's a very constructive discussion to have, and I think not enough people paid attention to you when you were saying that. They only focused on the fact that you were criticizing Tracy Deonn for the experience that you had with her. Let me be clear, your feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid. You did nothing wrong. Let me be clear, you did nothing wrong. You are allowed to critique public figures. You are allowed to say when someone hurts you or makes you feel uncomfortable, or if you're not okay on something. And I think a lot of people do not understand the nuance of that in terms of things, and you can express that in your corner of the internet. You weren't tagging Tracy Deonn in any of this. You were talking about it within your community. You did not spread that. People came into your space and harassed and abused you. That is horrifying to me, and I am so sorry. I am so sorry for your experience. You did not deserve that. You seem like a lovely, intelligent young woman, a lovely, intelligent Black Muslim woman who I have not had the opportunity to be able to have the pleasure of meeting. I hope that this does not deter you from the community that you love, the book series that you clearly love. And you know, initially I was, like when I first saw that video in terms of criticism, I saw people being supportive to you in terms of things and saying, I hope the next encounter that you have with Tracy Deonn is better. And that would have probably been my comment if I had been on TikTok and saw your video in terms of things. I would have kept it constructive. And I know you've been trying to keep it constructive even after the first initial post. You are allowed to your feelings. Nobody has the right to micromanage how you express those feelings. And I want you to understand that there are a lot of people who probably, you know, wouldn't be speaking up in terms of things, even though they're in support of you. They're scared because they don't want what happened to you to happen to them. And you know, I felt fear in terms of making this video, in terms of trying to speak up about it, of what was done to you. But I keep thinking in the back of my mind that, you know, you're probably even more scared than I am. And I am so, so sorry for your experience with this. I hope that you can make a safe return to online, to your TikTok page, or whatever corner of the internet that you're on in terms of your social media platforms and stuff like that, that you can escape the hate that people are slinging to you, that have been continuously slinging this to you over the past several weeks. I hope that you have a supportive system offline, that of people affirming your personhood and how much you are worth and you deserve better than this. I hope that you are filled with comfort, with light, with peace, with all the serenity that entails. And I wish you love. And I hope that you are able to find some peace in the aftermath of all this. You can get through this. You will get through this. And I know that's hard for a lot of people who are, you know, on the other end of a cyberbullying, of basically people coming into the space and like tearing you apart personally and doing so many things to discredit you and your feelings. But I hope that you find some sense of peace in the aftermath of all of this. And that is my message to you. I know you don't know me, and I don't know you very well. But in terms of one human being to another, in terms of being a Black woman myself, I know the experience of meeting somebody who you look up to is a common experience. It's not at all at odds. We happen to live in a social media age where everything is online, everything is filmed, everything, like we live within our respective spaces. I come from a time where social media was not necessarily a thing. And when I met one of the people that I looked up to and it was a disappointing experience, I know I went to who like I could vent to in terms of things in my social circles. I probably would have done the same thing as you, vented on, like if my specific space was online in my corner of the internet in terms of things, I probably would have vented in terms of too. I want you to know that Tracy Deonn will be fine. I think she has a large support system in terms of things, and she can take criticism. She is a national best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author. She will be fine. Your one critique will not ruin her career, and I hope you know that. I hope you know that. I think people assigned you more power than you actually have. And, you know, like when I met the person that disappointed me in terms of things, I had a community to turn to talk about my disappointment, even though it was over 20 years ago. Like, that's water on the bridge. And the only reason I am not mentioning who it is because, like, you know, like the person that like I'm thinking of has since passed away. And I remember there were other people who had the same experience of like that person being dismissive and cruel in terms of things and off-putting in what was supposed to be a public experience. And, you know, we take the good from the bad and try to move forward in the best ways that we can in terms of things. I hope that you are able to move forward with as much dignity and grace as you can from this, and that people learn to leave you alone in terms of things, and learn that they are not the judge, juries, and executioners over your feelings or anybody else's. And so I will wrap this up telling you that I send you love, light, peace, serenity, and all the love in the world. And I hold you in my heart. Yours, Rose T.A. Summers. Now for the rest of this video, I'm going to essentially be the mother of dragons and go Drakaris on a lot of people. It's at least, to say the least. This isn't, but I'm trying to keep a light approach to what is otherwise a very heavy subject matter in terms of things. But we're going to cover a lot of things in this video. First of all, I think it's important to kind of like see where this respectively started. And I'm going to center Sameera's voice, since she's really the only person whose thoughts and feelings we know about the situation. We do not know about Tracy Deonn's perspective in this thing. Like, Tracy Deonn has not said anything about this publicly since it happened. I'm not even sure if she knows that it happened, to be honest with you. In terms of, she just may not choose to speak on it at this point. It's very unlikely she's probably going to speak on it at all, because it's been almost a month since it happened. To sum up in terms of what actually happened during BookCon, a young Black Muslim woman named Sameera, who has a TikTok, had a meeting with Tracy Deonn at BookCon. And I've heard the nightmare stories about a lot of things going wrong at BookCon. I get it, y'all. Like, as someone who's been to multiple conventions in terms of things, like, I'm no stranger to conventions myself, in terms of how chaotic it can be at how certain events, especially after the height of COVID, a lot of things are, like, a lot of these events are disorganized and lacking in a lot of different things. So I understand where a lot of people are coming from on that in terms of things, and the critique about BookCon, about them not having the food court or open, about bathroom lines being long, like an hour long, in terms of things. I'm like, that is a nightmare scenario. Thankfully, in the conventions that I've been to, like Bookish and otherwise, it has not been like that. But it's unfortunate that for a BookCon, especially with it coming back, it had all these issues. Having said that, I'm going to play the clip directly for... I don't have the very first video that Sameera posted on TikTok in terms of her basically like you know, being with her friend and like the like holding up her middle fingers. I don't have that video. And quite frankly, like, in terms of things, I'm leaving that to the side in terms, because I'm not trying to police Sameera's feelings or thoughts or anything like that. I'd rather let her speak for herself. The thing about it is, like, I did see the second video, and I'm going to play that for you right now.
Oh, can I take pictures? Yes, okay.
I'm on Sameera. Okay. I recently started the right now, but I was super, like, I felt super connected.
Can you tell me how I should sign these? It's like one big piece of paper, is it not?
Yeah.
So I think in the aftermath of what I'm seeing in this respective video in terms of things, I am not going to speak for either Tracy Deonn nor Sameera in terms of things. This was the interaction as it happened. If I'm providing a reading in terms of how this exchange went down, Sameera is clearly nervous. Like, this is her first time meeting her favorite author. Like, it's easy to get nerves like that. Like, you know, I get it. Like, meeting someone who's that important to you can produce a lot of nerves and stuff like that. So she was stumbling over her words in terms of things. And then when Tracy Deonn responded in terms of stuff cutting her off, I could understand why Sameera felt slighted by that, because it was abrupt. Again, I'm not going to speak for either Sameera or Tracy Deonn in terms of motivations or anything like that, in terms of that. I'm reading this from what the video showcases in terms of things. And, you know, I've always been an advocate of meeting people where they are. Like, when you have someone who it's their first time convention, they're going to meet people in terms of things. You know, you want to meet people where they are, especially if you are a person who is at a professional event as a professional. And maybe it's just me, you know, speaking from customer service experiences. I want to meet people where they are in terms of things, in terms of being able to address their needs and things like that. As I mentioned, I'm a former exercise physiologist, ACSM certified. Like, when I was working as a personal trainer in terms of things, I was meeting a lot of people where they were, and they were in a lot of different places in terms of whether or not they wanted to exercise, whether they were feeling motivated, whether they were not. And you have to learn to be able to read people, and sometimes even read people quickly in high stress situations in terms of things. So I look at this as someone who is not only just an attendee at a convention, but also from the professional side in terms of, you know, trying to see like how to meet some people who are attending an event in terms of professionality. I can't assign an intent to Tracy Deonn or even speak for Tracy Deonn in terms of things, but I think if I were an attendee, like, meeting my favorite author, it would have felt rude in terms of the way that the Sameera was interrupted so suddenly. And I know that con experiences in terms of stuff, like, it's fast and fluid, it's chaotic, and it's a lot of things going on at one time. But even as a professional, you have to know how to meet those demands in terms of these. Your environment may be less than ideal. Your general mood and other things may not be like on and up and up, but when you have to be on, you have to be on, and you have to be able to meet the place where you're serving your audience and doing your things and doing your promotions and on things like that. And I think that's something that people need to bear in mind in terms of looking at the professionality as well as being able to meet with audience from that perspective in terms of things. So I see where Sameera is coming from. I really do. And I say that with, full sincerity. It is hard for me to see how people were so quick to put words and thoughts and feelings in Tracy Deonn's mouth when they don't have that right to do so. And to dehumanize someone like Sameera and dismiss her feelings in terms of the aftermath of that exchange and her thoughts and feelings after that exchange is just abhorrent. Like, you should not, like, regardless of how close you are to a series or your creator or beloved, you should never dehumanize somebody in the name of that person or that thing that you love. People don't deserve that. I feel like this should be an obvious point for a lot of people to grasp in terms of things, in terms of not treating Sameera as, her sharing the video in her space, in her corner of the internet, not tagging Tracy Deonn, not doing anything in terms of things, and certainly not saying that Tracy Deonn should be canceled. She never said that. She never said that once. She never said that once. And let's make that abundantly clear. She did not say, Sameera did not say that. And so many other people are very quick to put words in Sameera's mouth that she did not say in the aftermath of this exchange. So we have the two videos that Sameera posted, and she was offline. The initial comments on the second video, the second TikTok video, which I just showed, were initially very supportive. Let me be clear. They were initially very supportive. There were people who were telling Sameera, I'm sorry you had that experience. I hope your next encounter with Tracy Deonn is better. I hope your next, experience is better than what you do. And then there were other people who were saying, like, those feelings are valid, and there are other people saying that they've had a similar experience with Tracy Deonn. It's like she probably had a bad day or something like that. It was generally positive. But then as time went on, the people who were sending abusive claims and things like that started piling into Sameera's space, and it started spreading on Book Talk, Author Talk, Reader Talk. It went to Threads. I don't know if it went to Twitter because I'm no longer on Twitter anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised if people were talking about it there. And then it definitely went on Blue Sky, and I'll talk about it later in terms of how it blew up on Blue Sky and what I tried to do in terms of trying to stop it, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. In light of the backlash, Sameera posted a series of 2 more videos, TikToks. One of them I will put up here for your reference because it was just music playing as well as a statement, a general statement. She had taken down the other 2 videos on her mentioning her encounter with Tracy Deonn at BookCon, and she had basically said this. I'm going to read out to you in a separate part that's probably going to start right now, and then we'll come back. Hey y'all, Editing Rose here. So I want to read Sameera's statement from this respective screenshot that I took of her third video following all the backlash over her meeting from Tracy Deonn at BookCon. And this was posted after Sameera took down the other two videos in terms of things because of the amount of backlash, amount of abusive comments that were in her respective space. And she explains that in a fourth video, which I'll come to later on in this video to addressing, but I want to read this one out to y'all. She says, "Hi everyone, thank you for your comments, support, and insights. I took some time to sit with this before speaking. As a Black woman, it is important to me not to tear down another Black woman. This was never about that. I understand she may have been tired or overwhelmed, and I respect that, especially because I was feeling the same that day. At the same time, I want to be honest about my experience. I'm not an anomaly. I'm not expecting to monopolize anyone's time, but even a small acknowledgement, like a small okay, can go a long way. That's the standard I believe should apply across the board. I also want to be clear. I don't support or welcome any anti-Black or hateful commentary in this space. That was never my intention in sharing this. I hope this opens up a conversation about treating everyone with kindness, no matter how small the interaction may seem." And this was posted by Sameera shortly afterwards. I thought this was a very mature response in the aftermath of a lot of things, and you know, she fully expressed her feelings here in terms of saying, hey, her feelings are valid, and also saying that where she says, I'm not expecting to monopolize anyone's time, but even a small acknowledgement, like a small okay, can go a long way. Which that's kind of what I mentioned in this video about meeting people where they are in terms of things. When you are in a professional environment in terms of things, you want to make sure that people are cared for, taken care of, and acknowledged and respected in terms of being able to meet. And I understand that Tracy Deonn is human too, and she may have had things going on in terms of things. And something that I want to point out is that Sameera is recognizing that Tracy Deonn's thoughts and feelings here in terms of the space where she may have been in terms of mentally, emotionally, and in the space. So Sameera is very accommodating in terms of things and patient and graceful in this, and I don't understand why people mocked her for this response in terms of things. She wanted the experience to be kinder, and she felt dismissed, and she's acknowledging the feelings of the person who she had the hurtful experience with. So I don't understand how people could read in bad faith Sameera's intentions or anything in this in terms of things. Especially, this was a good statement, and I think people had even more hurtful things to say when Sameera posted this in terms of things, and this was up for a while, even after her fourth video, which I'll talk about later on in this video. This was up to acknowledging a lot of things and a lot of the comments that she had received at the time, but we'll talk about it on the other side. And then in a follow-up to that respective statement, there was another video that Sameera posted where she was responding to a lot of the people who were sending her a lot of hateful messages, hurtful messages in terms of things, and accusing her of doing things that she absolutely did not do. And I'll talk about that later, but what I want to do is I want to center Sameera's voice first and actually post the clip of what the follow-up to the previous part where she was taking to task people who were, maligning her and saying things and even threatened to beat her up and everything else. I don't have the video for it, but I have the audio for it to play what she said in that respective video, and I'm going to play it for you right now.
Hi everyone, it's
printer paper girl. I'm coming on here because there's things that are being said that I just don't agree with, and I don't feel like I should be silent about. First, my feelings in my situation is valid. But what isn't valid is if you are about to cancel Tracy Deonn over my experience when you support a problematic author. You cannot use my experience as an excuse. You cannot get away with saying racist things in my presence, in my space. It is why when I saw that, I turned off my comments and I deleted my videos. Now, could I have done it sooner? No, I was asleep. So I haven't allowed it on my end, but book talk and author talk is letting it happen on theirs. My feelings and my perception on the situation are valid, which is why I'm going to be talking about it a little bit later in the video. But that doesn't excuse people for being racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic. Yes, all three happening on all platforms by book talk creators and authors. I'm seeing actual authors being like, well, if that was my fan and that was my situation, you know, I would put my hands on them. I would. Would you? I'm having people talk about my scarf, saying that I have nothing under it. I'm having people say that my English wasn't that good and that's why I was stuttering. I wonder if you can understand me now. I'm using authors use this drama and discussion to do anything but improve their interactions with their fans. And at the end of the day, that's why I posted my experience. Because I want better experiences for fans. A better experience than what I felt. I went to BookCon one day. I had 2 reservations and I only went to 2 signings. Those 2 reservations. Looking back at both of my recorded interactions, both were a minute long, and I wasn't taking up any more time than I needed to. The author from my first interaction was confused about the book plates and asked me, and I gladly explained. Why did I record the interactions? Well, the people before me recorded their interactions. They took pictures. The people behind me did as well. Why can't I? This is my first conference. I'm thinking it's a standard. Matter of fact, if your friends are not recording for you, the team will record for you. So I didn't think it was weird. I bring my book plates to the first author. She's confused. She stops me for a second. She's like, hey, how do I sign this? Do you want me to sign it in the middle? Is it multiple sheets? Do you want me to sign multiple times? And I say, of course, let me show you. She asks a couple times. She double checks with me and she signs my papers. I tell her, hey, I really enjoyed your book, and we end the interaction. Now, with author number 2, Tracy, there's a difference. Because of author number 1, I'm realizing, hey, they're gonna be a little bit confused about my book plates. Let me explain ahead of time. So when you're in line, they'll take your book plates, your books, whatever, and they'll prep them for the author. I tell them, hi, I have clear pieces of paper to use as book plates. Here's the name, here's the post-it that I already have. That's all I want signed. They say okay, they put it on the table, prep it for her. I go up, she says hi, I say hi, I brought book plates. I tell her, hey, they're like clear pieces of paper. I'm planning to cut them out and put them in some special editions that I'm getting soon. And just sign in the center, you can't do any wrong. And then that's when the nerves kick in. I'm trying to find a way to transition, tell her, hey, your book really resonated with me. Now, Tracy is a Black woman. I am a Black woman. Her book is about Black women and their struggle. So me saying all of that was a little bit more heartfelt than just saying, hey, I like your book. And you can see in the video that Tracy is confused about the book plates. And as I'm seeing, hey, I really resonated with your book, the character means a lot to me, is when she decides to interrupt me. And this is where I think some people are losing a little bit of that nuance. I'm telling her in a heartfelt way that your work as a Black woman about a Black character means a lot to me as a Black woman myself. And for her to interrupt that, and I don't know if she heard any of it at all, hurts and shocks you. It goes from a lackluster situation to a hurtful situation because what you have said that is heartfelt was not heard at all. I'm a little stunned and I'm a little taken aback, and I start explaining what exactly I wanted. And she's asking me more questions and I'm clarifying things. And as she's signing and everything and she's making sure of everything, she says, "Thank you for waiting in line. Thank you for coming." And this is the cherry on top. The girl behind me also had book plates. And I see her team moving her book plates right next to mine. So, "Thank you for coming" suddenly turns into some dismissive words to kind of get you out of the line. And the book plates being pushed against my book plates kind of are telling me, yeah, your time is over. Mind you, it's only been a minute and I've probably said maybe 2 or 3 sentences that haven't really reached her. So I leave the line and I'm stunned. And I tell my friend that. And I'm like, that felt a little off. And my friend that was there just goes, "Yeah, but we have the rest of the conference. Let's go enjoy the rest of the conference." And I'm spending the rest of the conference trying to get it out of my head. And towards the end of the conference, we're sitting down somewhere. And I'm like, but I can't get it out of my head. And I'm telling her I felt dismissed. And the thing is, being dismissed by a woman is a microaggression. But from a fellow Black woman, it's just rude. It's just rude. So while being interrupted while trying to say something heartfelt, feeling dismissed, being overwhelmed and tired from BookCon, I cried. Of course. I was feeling my feelings. And I'm right to feel that. I get done crying, I whip out my phone, and I see that my makeup is fucked up. So I'm like, my makeup is fucked up. Fuck this feeling. My friend trying to make me feel better is like, fuck this feeling as well. Now, if you feel like that's a little convenient of me to say, I understand, but that's my truth and that's my feeling. It wasn't truly at anybody, me saying fuck. I posted what I thought it was going to be a one and done TikTok about my experience at BookCon. When I posted that first TikTok, I didn't think I was going to say a name. People are speculating in the comments. People are asking me in the DMs. People are sharing their experiences. And I'm having people in my DMs and my comments saying that they've had similar experiences and that I'm not a one-off. And sitting with this, I think it says a lot, not about the author. I think it says a lot about these conferences, their teams, this system in general. Because at the same time that there's a lot of positive interactions, there's a lot of negative ones that are happening as well. And I think that's what authors, their teams, event handlers, fans, that's what we need to focus on. Kind of making better experiences at these signings and meets. But instead it's turned into this conversation where we're canceling people, we're saying racist things, we're saying xenophobic things, we're saying Islamophobic things, we're saying even more hurtful things on both sides, from creators, from authors, from fans. And I think that's despicable, and it's not actually getting at the root of the issue. These are hard experiences on both sides of the table, so why are we still allowing this to happen? Continuing to say hurtful things isn't going to solve anything, and nobody's entitled to anything, but also at the same time, I think we should be able to give each other a little bit more kindness on both sides of the table. Now, whether or not you thought that me sharing my experience was for those intentions does not matter. Because at this point, the truth does not matter. What matters is where this discussion leads. And if it continues to lead to drama, nothing's going to change. But if sharing these experiences leads to discussions on how to better these experiences between authors and fans, I think maybe we're going in the right direction. I've been yapping your ear off and my time limit is almost up, so I'm going to leave with this. Book talk, how can we make this better?
So instead of making things better, like, I really admire the fact that Sameera was so constructive in her follow-up to, like all the backlash that she was receiving. Like, that was a very intelligent and very constructive response considering the amount of hate that she was getting. And that was actual hate. The Islamophobia, the racism, the xenophobia, that is hate. We need to actually talk about the difference between hate and critique. And in terms of stuff, you cannot equate critique or posting a criticism in terms of like, you know, like an encounter or somebody making you feel the way that you feel as spreading hate. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of the whole situation in terms of things. But, you know, people didn't care. People in the Legendborn community did not freaking care. And I'm going to post several responses that I saw on Blue Sky, or not Blue Sky, but on Threads. A lot of people on Threads like were responding to it in terms of things, including certain authors. Danielle Clayton. Danielle Clayton is not beating the bully allegations in terms of things. This is the second time that she's been a part of a major cyberbullying campaign against a young woman. This time a young Black Muslim woman, which doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense when she went after Brooke Nelson. Danielle Clayton is the same person who called Brooke Nelson a raggedy ass bitch. And I'm probably going to have to censor that in terms of things because I don't want to get flagged. But the fact that she said that in terms of things and like piled on to Brooke Nelson, who really just wanted to choose someone else other than her, Sarah Desson, for her college reading program, you know, and she had every right to do that, say that, like, you know, saying that, you know, like it was fine for teens, but she wanted somebody else in terms of representing her book program. She had absolutely every right to do that, and she should not have been attacked and belittled for it. And then now, when it comes to Tracy Deonn, first of all, like, you know, even if Danielle Clayton knows Tracy Deonn, she did not have the right to dehumanize Sameera in Tracy Deonn's name. Absolutely no right. And, you know, at this point I see it as a pattern, since this is the second time publicly. We're not even going to get into private stuff that is like in terms of the rumor mill, in terms of things that Danielle Clayton has participated in that I'm horrified to have learned. And so my thought is, you know, I cannot support this author anymore. I cannot. You know, and I've enjoyed some of Danielle Clayton's short stories, you know, and like other readings in terms of things, but at this point, no, it's not worth it. If someone like this is going to dehumanize people in the community and in favor of her colleague or her friend or what have you, this is not the way to do it. This is not the way to do it. And so I'm not going to support Danielle Clayton anymore. There are other authors who also participated in this in terms of things, you know, like there may be some that like I highlight in like editing section. Editing Rosemary is probably going to have a lot of things on her plate to add in as addendums, but there were a lot of authors like who jumped in. Like, I can understand in some ways defending your colleague. I understand that. I understand Tracy Deonn being a Black woman who is in this profession, who is in this space, you know, publishing, and like how, you know, like the mechanizations in terms of things where it's like for Black authors it's harder to be able to have a leg up. But Tracy Deonn clearly has a support system in terms of things based on all of the people who are responding to it. What y'all don't have the right to do is dehumanize another human being in her name. And Sameera absolutely had every right to be able to say this experience hurt and disappointed me. The default thing that I have in my mind isn't to demonize Sameera for having a critique or say that her feelings are invalid or to say that she had ulterior motives. It is to say, how can we make this right? And Sameera said very specifically in terms of saying, like, this is, like, and she was very constructive about it. She said, like, how can we make this cons experience better? And how do we try to, like, mitigate the rush and the dismissal in terms of things, in terms of what happens with a stressful con? How do we make that better? And that was absolutely a valid question to ask. But y'all focus on the fact that she criticized your fave and essentially tore her to shreds on the internet. And I don't know how people aren't horrified that all of these people participated into these whataboutisms, mocking, degrading, calling Sameera entitled. Who are you to call anyone entitled for speaking in the name of Tracy Deonn and dehumanizing Sameera for this? Who are you calling entitled when you are sending a young Black Muslim woman Islamophobic post, racist post, and xenophobic post? Even the fact that people were saying that there was nothing under Sameera's hijab. How can you say that she is entitled in terms of things when you were doing these kinds of things in Tracy Deonn's name to hurt her? How can you say that? And I keep asking this question over and over again in my head. I'm like, and there's no decency in what was done to Sameera. There is no decency. And like the amount of gaslighting, like, and the reframing, reshaping, the fact that they leave Sameera's name out of the situation so that it's easier to demonize her and criticize her and make her like an other, like, in this conversation in terms of things, instead of actually addressing the things that Sameera said, really lights a fire under me. Nobody in this community deserves to be treated that way. Nobody. And I want to make that very clear.
Hey y'all, Editing Rose here. So I want to do a section on where I am examining certain responses to Sameera's post, and I'm going to say this, like I said at the beginning of the video, any person that I mentioned in this video, if you try to use my space to go after or abuse these authors and people, I'm going to delete your comments. The point of this, in terms of this next section, is to call in people who were using Sameera's experience and dehumanizing her and ignoring what she said. And I want to be very clear that I'm not smearing these authors. There are some authors in here that I'm going to mention that I actually deeply respect, but I'm very deeply disappointed in terms of the fact that they participated in this dehumanization of Sameera and completely missed the point of what she had said. And that is the intention behind what I'm about to highlight in terms of some of these comments. So we're going to start with Annalise Brana. I'm not familiar with Annalise at all. I hope I pronounced her name right, but I'm going to read you her response. And this is directly responding to, or probably indirectly responding to Sameera in terms of her experience at BookCon. She says, as an invited author by BookCon, I want to clarify their rules. No posed pictures, candidates only, and max 3 books signed. Okay? Every author that took a posed photo with you, personalized your name, or signed papers, bookmarks, book plates, etc. We're all doing extra to make a connection with our readers, just FYI. And side note, telling us to smile, y'all sound just like the men you despise catcalling us on the street. We're people, not products. Totally missed the point of what Sameera said. Totally missed the point of what Sameera said. And yes, we can acknowledge the humanity and dignity of authors in terms of that this was not an author versus reader conflict. This was a Legendborn community conflict. There were people who were trying to silence Sameera in the name of supposedly protecting your Tracy Deonn. This missed the point of Sameera's experience and served to dismiss not only the fact that Sameera's feelings were hurt in the disappointing reaction to with Tracy Deonn, but also just it's a wholesale dismissal in terms of her experience, in terms of stuff, and it contributed to the piling on of Sameera. And I hate that. I hate that for Sameera. I hate for the community to just completely overlook what Sameera had said in the constructive argument that she made. So, and the thing about it is, it's like, like a lot of it, like even other black women know better than this. And I can't convey enough the disappointment that I feel from Annalise's comment here in terms of things, because the point is not saying, like Samira never said anything like in terms of she wanted a friendlier experience. She didn't want to be dismissed. She felt dismissed. And you cannot play judge, jury, and executioner on another person's feelings and responses in terms of things. And this is what Annalise was doing, and that it was not okay. This next post features two authors, Don Martin and Michael LeBourne. I'm not familiar with Don Martin, but I am familiar with Michael LeBourne. I took issue with an essay he wrote on Black boys in fantasy quite some time ago. You can watch that video when I link it in the cards above in the description down below if you're interested in that in terms of things and why I had issues with it. But these were two authors who joined in on the pile-on to Sameera's experience, and I want to read this out to you. First, I'm going to start with the quoted message by Don Martin, who says, "I just saw the Tracy Deonn video and it only affirms that far too many of you hate authors. You love our labor, you love our products, you do not see us as people. This is some bullshit. She is nothing but kind and gracious and giving, and y'all are trying to clip her out of context and make a moment? Absolutely not. Miss me with this entirely. Totally missed the point that this was Sameera's own experience," and that was so dismissive and rude and disrespectful to Sameera. Like, didn't even acknowledge her feelings in terms of stuff, and and or even intentions in terms of behind posting the video and inviting this horrible behavior into her space. It's disappointing. And then Michael LeBourne, who is the quoted comment, is, "If you think Tracy Deonn is mean, please don't ever approach me. If you see me at an event, because my social battery starts at 0. God forbid people get tired of being on after hours." First of all, Tracy Deonn was not after hours, and she was on at this event. This was a promotional event. BookCon was a promotional event for Tracy Deonn, and I'll get to explaining more of that later in terms of things, but I want to point out this was a professional event for Tracy Deonn, being an author, and she's representing her product, her brand, and on terms of things. She was not on after hours. This is a fundamental misreading of what Tracy Deonn's role was at BookCon. And he's completely wrong about that, and I want to make that very clear. But he's also very dismissive of Sameera's feelings and personal experience. Both of these authors do not have the right to play judge, jury, and executioner over another person's feelings. And I don't understand why they think they have the right to. And to do that in the name of Tracy Deonn as well. It's to do that to a black Muslim woman. I'm like, do y'all not understand the repercussions of that? Do you not understand the context of the harm that you're doing? Yeah, it's disappointing. So this was a comment made by Brittany S. Lewis, and yeah, this is disappointing as well. She says in this quote on Threads, "If you think what happened to Tracy Deonn isn't due in part to racism and misogyny, baby, you need to go ahead and tap out." How is it racist that a black Muslim woman who had a disappointing experience with meeting Tracy Deonn, how is that racism? I don't understand how someone can say something like this and not be disrespectful about it. Like, you can tell from the tone of my voice that I'm disappointed in a lot of people in the bookish community, people that I look up to, people I've read from, and I've read from Brittany S. Lewis. I liked her debut, The Undead Truth of Us, and like I had praised it in terms of things, and even though I was disappointed in her follow-up book to that, I still want to read other things from her, but I don't know if I want to after this in terms of things, because it's so dismissive and so cruel to a black Muslim woman who's speaking on her experience exclusively. and to dismiss that and to try to turn it into something that had nothing to do with the experience. Sameera was not being racist towards Tracy Deonn. I don't understand how people can make that argument in terms of stuff when you're talking about two black women having a conversation, and unfortunately, one of them came away from the experience feeling disappointed and hurt. I don't understand how you can casually dismiss Sameera's feelings in this, and to me, this was just joining on the pylon, and it's hurtful. This one actually hurts in terms of things, and this is a series of authors who are actually joining in on the pylon and mocking Sameera, like for venting about her experience when they had no right to do so. So this is, like, to start with, this is Leah Johnson, who is the author of You Should See Me in a Crown, among other books, and I actually respect her writing in terms of things. And to see her pile onto a black Muslim woman and mock her like this is so disappointing that I can't even begin to express the hurt and disappointment in terms of them joining in on the pylon. But what Leah Johnson says first on this is, my expose: Tracy Deonn slapped me in the face and pushed my mother down the stairs when all I did was ask her for a lock of her hair, is forthcoming in the cut tomorrow. Stay tuned. And then Brown Bookworm is Danielle Clayton, whose message I featured in the last section, and she follows up with, well, my article, Tracy Deonn kicked me in my forehead and drop kicked my mama when all I did was ask her to write me a new book and come hang out at my house and bring cookies, is forthcoming in the Reactor tomorrow before yours, dropping 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know who Gretch Schreiber is. I'm guessing that this person is also an author as well. It says, one of these days authors are just going to collectively say, no, we're not doing this anymore. We will disappear like magical creatures back into our realms, and all that will remain are our books. That completely missed the point of everything that Sameera said. And you know what? That is just hurtful. That is just hurtful. And then Amelie Howard, my goodness. I know about Amelie Howard. I told myself I would never read her books after Plantation Gate in terms of her dismissing people, criticizing the fact that she wrote a book about a master and a slave and their romance in terms of things, and the problems with the portraying the history of the East India Company in terms of stuff. Like, she kind of ignored that. And there were other authors who kind of joined in on that pylon and basically dismissed a lot of readers who had issues with that. So I said, like, for a long time, I didn't want to read her in terms of things. But she says here, the microaggressions Black, Brown, and Indigenous authors face, as well as the standards we are held to, are absurd. But also, you do not know the invisible battles people are fighting. Kindness and grace go both ways. Y'all missed the point of what Sameera completely said in her videos in terms of things, and the fact that this was her experience exclusively. She had the right to be able to express her feelings. Y'all cannot play judge, jury, and execution over her feelings. And it is a space where she should be able to say, like, you know, her being hurt without other people dehumanizing her. And that is all that what they were doing. They were mocking it. They're mocking and dehumanizing her experience. And, you know, you can have your feelings about Tracy Deonn in terms of stuff as your peer or as somebody you admire, but you do not have the right to dismiss and dehumanize somebody in their name. And Tracy Deonn, you can and not dismiss another human being's feelings and experience in Tracy Deonn's name. And I don't understand how they can just completely miss that. But yeah. So Bren Weaver is a popular romance author who had this to say, you know, in terms of everything, in terms of the fallout after Sameera's encounter with Tracy Deonn. She says, please give grace to authors at events. On top of the general peopling and mass exposure to hundreds of people over a short period of time, authors receive a lot of emotional downloads to sit with: trauma, grief, abuse, personal histories that carry weight. Books are art. They resonate because people see themselves reflected in the pages. Demanding a Black woman sit with that weight with a smile on her face is beyond my comprehension. Tracy Deonn deserves your utmost respect, nothing less. Bryn could have stayed out of this conversation. She's dismissing the experience of a Black Muslim woman who's speaking to her experience only, and this is not like in no way, shape, or form did Sameera dehumanize Tracy Deonn. If anything, Sameera acknowledged Tracy Deonn's feelings and the weight that she may have had during that signing. But you have to realize this is still a professional event. Tracy Deonn is still a professional author who is expected to be on and at a promotional event. And Bren and other authors, and I've seen a lot of white authors do this in terms of stuff. You do not have the right to dismiss a Black Muslim woman's feelings over, like in favor of another Black woman. That doesn't make any kind of sense. Why is it so easy for you to recognize the humanity and dignity of Tracy Deonn, but you do nothing like that to recognize Sameera? It's not fair. And it's not right. And people should have left Sameera's comment as it was in terms of let her vent in her own space and let her have her feelings and feel her feelings. Her feelings are valid, and y'all do not have the right to dehumanize her and degrade her and try to silence her. And this is having a silencing effect on a Black Muslim woman who had a disappointing experience. And I think it was Bryn Weaver as well as Victoria Aveyard, who I don't have what Victoria had said. Like, I don't know specifically what she said, but she had commented on it as well. But I'm like, when you have two black people who are having a conversation with each other, you're not being an ally by dismissing one and uplifting the other. Y'all have to understand the optics of that and how that hurts. Because what it says is that you only value certain Black people's feelings, but then you would be very dismissive, ready to dismiss others in their name because of the one that you find favor with. And this is not okay. This is not okay in terms of things. This whole situation required a lot more nuance than just authors versus readers. This was an entire book community, the Legendborn allied community, descending on one young woman who had a disappointing experience and a hurtful experience. And Sameera had absolutely had the right to be able to talk about her experience and not be dehumanized and silenced in the way that these authors are doing. And it's very disappointing to see this. This is the last author comment that I will comment on in terms of things. And all of these specific responses were found on threads in terms of things. And just FYI, because like I was made aware of a lot of people commenting about this on threads. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on threads. But I saw other people talking about like, you know, like the people that I've mentioned here in terms of things, and I want to highlight and push back as gently as I possibly can to make people understand like how dehumanizing it is to Sameera that they're doing this pile on in terms of things and not recognizing the nuance of the situation. But this is the one that hurt me the most in terms of things. This is Aiden Thomas, who is the author of Cemetery Boys, among other things. I love Aiden's work. I am very disappointed in the fact that Aiden decided to join in on the pile-on against Sameera, like a Black Muslim woman. Y'all did not have the right to do this to this poor young woman. Y'all did not have the right, not in the name of Tracy Deonn, not in the name of anybody. And what Aiden says here is basically not even the worst of like some of the comments that were given by other authors in terms of things, but I wanted to lightly push back against this based on what Aiden says. So Aiden says, frankly, people should be thankful Tracy even does signing still because she absolutely does not need to. So to lightly push back on this, part of the journey of being an author is to be able to use what venues you have to do promotions and things like that. And absolutely, BookCon events are a way to do that, doing meet and greets, doing other things. And yes, it is true that authors do not have to do meet and greets, but then they would be losing out on a lot of promotional opportunities in terms of things. And I think Tracy Deonn sees that. And like I said earlier in the video, I don't know if Tracy Deonn was paid to attend BookCon. Likely, like, publisher probably paid for her to go to BookCon. Sometimes there are some authors who have to pay on their own dime to go to certain events in order to do promotion stuff, but still, in-person events are a huge seller in terms of being able to make connections with your audience in terms of things, and do promotional material. And then, being a kidlit author, of course you're going to be able to you're going to want to do in-person events so that you can meet your audience. And Tracy Deonn is a kidlit author. She Legendborn is a kidlit series. It's a series for teens. And can you imagine what the response would have been if Sameera was a teenage age fan, and y'all were doing all of this pylon and dehumanizing in Tracy Deonn's name towards a child? I don't that to me feels unacceptable and just completely wrong. It's already unacceptable in terms of doing this to a Black Muslim young woman, but it's unacceptable to me that y'all can't meet people where they are in terms of being able to meet the moment and being able to say, hey, this is a professional event, this is where I'm supposed to be on. And like being able to like meet your audience where they are in terms of things, and being a professional is absolutely required in these kinds of events. And yes, authors are tired and have a lot of things going on in terms of things, and they may have things that are weighing upon them in less than ideal spaces like BookCon. But that's still like when a person who is a part of the audience feels disappointed by an encounter, you want to meet that person where they are. You want to be able to make things right. Like, if you care anything about your audience, if you care anything about the people you are serving, you want to make sure they're okay. And it feels like Aiden's response is somewhat dismissive of this in terms of things, and then completely misses the point of what Sameera was saying in her videos, and all of her videos. And this is a young woman who had the right to be able to vent in her own space without being piled on, attacked, or abused. And that hurts. That hurts. But this is the last comment that I'm going to push back on, like, as light as I possibly can. This is a call in, not a call out. I'm trying to be as constructive as I can in terms of things, and center Sameera's humanity and dignity as best I can. It's not that me highlighting Sameera's humanity and dignity is going against Tracy Deonn. That's not the point of this. It is to acknowledge that there are two Black women in this situation, and there is an imbalance in terms of things where it feels like people are acknowledging Tracy Deonn's humanity, but at the expense of Sameera's humanity and dignity. And that is unfortunate in terms of all of this fallout for things. But I'm going to leave it here, and we're going to go back to the regular video.
I also thought that in the conversations following this whole event, and let me be clear, Sameera has been getting non-stop abuse since the time that she posted those videos. Y'all have to realize this is weeks, almost a month, continuously. Like, Sameera posted her initial, disappointed and stuff like that, like 2 videos, really two main videos, and then the main follow-up, which I played in the clip beforehand in terms of things. That was all she did to address it. But everybody else has been continuously piling on and sending her actual hate, not critique, actual hate and dismissals and gaslighting in terms of things for weeks now. She has had no relief. And as a result, as of the posting of this video, as of the time that I'm doing this, Sameera has taken down almost all of her videos. And you know what? Congratulations, Legendborn community. You silenced a Black Muslim woman. How are you feeling about that? I wouldn't imagine it feels good if you have any humanity or dignity. If you have any humanity or dignity. You should be questioning the morality of what y'all said and did to this poor young woman in any respect from doing this. If you have any humanity and dignity in you, this was a classic case of cyberbullying, of a power differential that was not equal. And Sameera was the person who was harmed by this. Tracy Deonn will be fine. Tracy Deonn is a professional. She is a writer. She has a community behind her. She has fans. She clearly has her author circle. She will be fine. Sameera will not be. Sameera will not be because of what y'all did to her. And that's one of the reasons why I started off this video for the most part with a message to Sameera, because like she needs to have some people in her corner in terms of stuff. And there are plenty of people who are probably in her corner who are afraid to speak up because of the way y'all treated her. I'm scared. I am scared, like, you know, like making this video and calling y'all out on it, because I don't know what ways you're going to dehumanize me for speaking up on Sameera's behalf. And speaking up on Sameera's behalf does not mean that I'm against Tracy Deonn. Don't get it twisted. Do not get it twisted in terms of things, and don't you ever try to twist my words to say that I'm anti-Tracy Deonn for being in Sameera's corner. I am saying that no human being should be treated in the way that Sameera was treated here. I need y'all to understand that. I need y'all to understand that that is a very harmful response to have to one human being who was hurt by an experience, who was speaking about her experience. Y'all did not need to descend like the hounds of Hades into her space to silence her. Y'all really did not need to do that. And you know, y'all, for my part, I have been trying, like, since I've learned about this happening, like, I've tried to do my part in my social circles to tell people, hey, y'all do not need to pile on to Sameera. I was very clear about that from the very beginning. This is not about me. Let me be clear, this is not about me. I wanted to make it very clear that this was a clear-cut case of cyberbullying towards Sameera in Tracy Deonn's name by members of the Legendborn community. What surprises me the most is just not just people who were fans, like readers who are in the Legendborn community, like who were piling onto Sameera, but professional authors as well doing this kind of dehumanization and, you know, going through and assigning things to Sameera that she did not do in this situation. I cannot tell y'all how disappointed I am that I lost a lot of respect for a lot of authors. Kidlit, y'all, a lot of this was the Kidlit community in terms of y'all are doing this in the name of a Kidlit author. How do y'all think teens are going to feel, like the actual audience that is intended for Legendborn are going to feel about this? About what y'all did to Sameera? How do you think they're going to feel? You know, and not to make this about reactions to the to Legendborn, it's the Legendborn series itself. I will tell y'all about a conversation I had with a teenager who made the decision, who did not want to read the Legendborn series anymore. And she had told me in confidence in terms of things. I will not say her name. I will not do anything because I know how y'all are. But what I will say is that this lovely young lady who said, like, you know, she took one look at Open and said, "This is too long. I am not reading it." But she had made the comment saying that she would never say this online, and I'm like, okay, sweetheart, why? And she was saying, Miss Summers, you know, if you say anything negative about the Legendborn series, people will jump you. And I had to sit with that for a moment in terms of stuff, because this young lady knew. Y'all have got to realize that there's a whole community that exists outside of the space that you were in, outside of the Legendborn fandom, outside the Tracy Deonn fandom, that is looking at things like this and can be impacted by that. And, you know, I don't think you know, Tracy Deonn's reputation is going to be tarnished by like anything that Sameera or other folks like her say in terms of having critiques, in terms of whether it may be critiques of the series or critiques of meeting and greeting, because that can be changed. Like, you know, Tracy Deonn can improve about it. She was at a book convention. She was supposed to be on. This is her profession and this is what she does. It was not a retreat. I don't know if Tracy Deonn was paid to be at BookCon, whether or not like her publisher like paid her expenses to be able to be there, or if she chose to be there herself with on her own dime. But what I will say is this was a promotional opportunity. Like, she was in a professional role being at this con, and this young con woman, Sameera, expressed disappointment in that there are ways to improve and make that right. There are ways to improve and make that right. If I had the feedback, if I were in the same position as Tracy Deonn, for example, I am not saying that I'm Tracy Deonn. Please don't get it twisted. I'm saying what I would do as a writer, aspiring author, in terms of being in that situation. If someone critiqued me in the same way that Sameera did, I would be making sure that that person was supported. I would reach out and apologize. I would say, you know, what can I do to make this right for you? If it was just Sameera saying, like, you know, can you be kinder? Which is essentially what she was saying. I'm like, absolutely would do that. And, you know, I think there were a lot more constructive ways to be able to handle this. This was not it, like, by a large portion in terms of the Legendborn community reacting the way that it did. It was totally inappropriate for the people that attacked Sameera like this. It was totally inappropriate. And I think there are more constructive ways to be able to, you know, handle the critique of your favorite or a professional being critiqued in the way that Sameera did. There are better ways to respond to that. More constructive ways, more healthy ways, even. But this wasn't it. I'm going to mention Mickey Kendall for a moment in terms of things, because she was like I'm going to put in a segment in terms of things, in terms of the way that I responded on Blue Sky, like in terms of telling people in my feed, please do not continue to pile on to Sameera. This is clearly a cyberbullying thing. Please do not continue to engage with us in this way and pile on. And for the most part, I'm going to tell the people who heard me, who privately messaged me in terms of things and expressed horror and disappointment in terms of it spiraling in the way that it did. For those of y'all who actually listened to me, thank you for doing that. I appreciate y'all so much. And I appreciate y'all recognizing the humanity and dignity of Sameera as well. And I understand that, like, you know, like some of you had said, like, you know, I understand that people felt the need to defend Tracy Deonn in this, but this was not the way to do it. I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. But let me talk about Mickey Kendall for a second, because this is another author I will never be touching any of her books whatsoever, ever again. So this is the author of Hood Feminism. What she did was nothing remotely in the definition of what it means to be feminist. Because you do not degrade a black woman in the name of another. That is not feminism. That is not feminism at all. And I remember, like, the way that this started was I had quoted Alex E. Harlow, who is an author, which, like, you know, like, Alex had actually, like, commented in terms of seeing the video, in terms of things to give a reaction. I tried to push back on that very, very lightly. I said, like, this is not the thing to do in terms of things, and I'll post my message, like, in terms of quote, my quote post on Blue Sky. Mickey Kendall responded to me quoting my post, basically saying, don't say none, won't be none. I want y'all to sit with that for a minute. This is a young black Muslim woman, Sameera, who is getting racist, Islamophobic, and xenophobic hate thrown her way, and you have the nerve, Mickey Kendall had the nerve to say, don't say none, won't be none, and continue to pile on, and then try to twist it to say, like, you don't think authors have you. Does Sameera not have the right to have humanity and dignity as well? Tell me that. Sameera has every right to have humanity or dignity and not be attacked in this way. So I will never touch anything that Mickey Kendall thinks. I blocked her so fast. Because imagine if Sameera was a teenage girl, I would have been even more mad. I'm already mad enough. I am more mad at the fact that she completely dismissed Sameera's humanity and dignity in this. In the name of Tracy Deonn. You are not Tracy Deonn. You cannot speak for her. And you cannot dehumanize other people in her name. I said I wasn't going to get mad, but of course I'm going to get, of course this has me furious. Because I recognize the humanity and dignity in every person. And as I said from the beginning, nobody deserves to be treated the way that Sameera was treated in this case. She did not deserve any of this. And I want y'all to sit with that. I mentioned before that this was not a case of authors versus readers in this particular exchange. It was more of an internalized thing, because this was composed of authors, readers, people in the Bookish community who were clearly fans of the Legendborn series, attacking Sameera in Tracy Deonn's name as well as the Legendborn series. So this is one of the reasons why I said it was Legendborn stans versus fans. And when I say stans, I'm not talking about, I'm not saying that in a congratulatory or a glib way. I'm talking about stan as in the definition of Eminem's song of the same name, Stan, where there's a level of toxicity that is given to being aligned with a thing and using that thing to be weaponized in a way that harms others. So I said very specifically that this was Legendborn stans versus fans. Clearly, Sameera is a fan of Legendborn. She said so herself. She said it in her own voice. I don't know if that continues to be true based on the behavior that was thrown to her. I would not blame her for leaving the Legendborn community or having any lost love for this because of what was done to her by the community. But again, I'm not going to speak for her. She may still love Legendborn, but not love the people who were hurtful to her. But it's getting to a point, and I'm seeing this in different pocket spaces of the Legendborn community, where there are people who are taking any kind of critique towards the Legendborn series or Tracy Deonn herself, and they're saying that that is equivalent to hate. Let me be very clear about this. Critique is not hate. Critiquing is not hate the same as hate. Hate is a completely different breed of things. You cannot equate critique to hate. Hate is far more personal. Hate is far more derogatory. And you're allowed to critique people if they do things that don't make you feel good. You're allowed to critique things in terms of that you don't like in a story or any kind of form of media in terms of stuff. You have the absolute right to critique that, and you have the right to be able to say it. Nobody has the right to take your voice away from you or to threaten or dehumanize you because of the critique that you have. If it is an example of an ism or a phobia, we can have that discussion. Sameera did not do any of that. She did not do any of that. And let me insert something in for a second, because I've seen one person going around in all the comment sections saying, well, Sameera speaking up about this invited racism and abuse towards Tracy Deonn. No, it did. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. That was a choice by y'all. And let me tell y'all why that is an example of racist scapegoating towards a black Muslim woman. First of all, both Tracy Deonn and Sameera are black women. Tracy Deonn and Sameera are both black women. They may have be different ages. They may have different experiences, and they're totally different roles in terms of stuff. Sameera's a reader. Tracy Deonn is a professional author, who was in a professional space, who was expected to be on. And, Sameera felt hurt by the dismissal that Tracy Deonn paid her in that clip. And that's not a abnormal thing to be upset about or even to speak about in terms of things. It's like, please be better. But the fact that this person was going around in people's comments and saying, Sameera invited this experience. No, let me hit y'all up with a little bit of Lisa Left Eye Lopez knowledge, except for we're not doing numbers, we're doing letters. But you have person A and you have person B having an exchange, and it doesn't go well. Person B says that they were hurt by person A. Person C witnesses this exchange and says a racist thing to person A. And then the person D, who witnesses this, has the nerve to say that person B was responsible for person C's behavior. You cannot make that argument. Person B has nothing to do with person C. Person C came into this exchange that had nothing to do with them and decided to attack person A. If you are not taking to task person C for their behavior, then that is a problem. You cannot blame person B for that behavior. And this was an A and B conversation. Everybody else is just the witness to it. The only people who have the right to be able to say definitively how they made them feel is person A and B, in which case, Tracy Deonn and Sameera. Everybody else is outside. And then you may say, well, Rose, you're commenting. I'm commenting on it because y'all are hurting a person who was in this exchange, who is really the only person we know whose feelings are definitive in terms of stuff, because she posted about it and she talked about it. And then she was very constructive about, what to do to make it right. And none of y'all listened. None of y'all listened. But I heard. And I hate that we have a young woman who was silenced by the community, even despite the fact that she was harmed. And even further harmed by the response. And you ask questions about whether or not, this makes me wonder, as someone who is not part of the Legendborn community, I like the first book. I was critical of the following two, and I've basically told a lot of people I'm done with the series. And like I said, this is not a video that's critiquing the merits or the flaws of the Legendborn series, but for my part, I understand that people have love. You can love a thing, you can love a person, but that does not give you the right to dehumanize other people who don't feel the same way that you do. Critique happens. Critique of your fave is a thing. If you're in any professional capacity, people will critique what you do, and you can't always control that. The person who that critique is given towards does not. It's not something that they can help, but they may use it or lose it in terms of what to do from there, in terms of them informing them how to move in terms of things. But to try to say that Sameera, speaking about her experience, her feelings on the exchange, is somehow equivalent to racist hate, when racism had nothing to do with it, I think that was a bad faith argument. And if I see that kind of thing in my comment section, I'm just going to block and delete you, because that's gaslighting. Because the thing that I see, in terms of, on this, if you have somebody who has a disagreement with another, and then another person comes in and says a racist thing towards the professional person, it's very likely that person would have probably been racist towards Sameera as well, because they're both black women. And if you are not confronting the person who is saying the racism, then you are not an ally. And attacking Sameera on behalf of this person who is person or people who are being racist toward Tracy Deonn, I can't say that I saw that. I've seen more people like be racist and dehumanizing towards Sameera than I've seen Tracy Deonn. But, you know, I'm not denying the existence of that. I just have seen it more with Sameera. But if you are trying to scapegoat Sameera in terms of blaming her for the racist attacks against Tracy Deonn, you are not a safe person to be around. You're just you're just trying to justify dehumanizing Sameera further and harming her further. And I hope that stops, right? I hope people stop doing that. I really do hope that people stop doing that to Sameera. She does not need to be harmed any more than she already has. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. I know I kept mentioning this being an incident of cyberbullying, but let me give you the definition of what cyberbullying is, and I'll provide a link in the description down below in terms of UNICEF's definition for it. But cyberbullying is, as defined by UNICEF, as bullying with the use of digital technologies. It is repeated behavior. Repeated behavior. Let me be very clear about that. Aimed at scaring, angering, or shaming those who are targeted. I saw this in abundance with Sameera. I saw this in abundance with the responses to Sameera from the kidlit community, from readers, from authors who participated in this without even a second thought. This is textbook cyberbullying. What the community did to Sameera was textbook cyberbullying. And it's the same mechanism that happened with, as I mentioned before, Sarah Dussin and Brooke Nelson. This was done to Brooke Nelson by not only Sarah Dussin herself, but other members of the community, authors, readers, just piled on to Brooke Nelson in terms of the same mechanics, same thing. And, you know, there was clearly a power differential in terms of the amount of people who were piling on to one person. And it wasn't Tracy Deonn who was getting the blunt of this. You could say that Sameera's post was given more power than it actually had in terms of things. It was a rant by one young woman in terms of things, in terms of her experience, and people descended into her space to dehumanize her and belittle her and gaslight her. Whereas, and also in terms of the cyberbullying definition, Sameera posting those two videos talking about her experience and how it made her feel does not fall under the definition of cyberbullying. What it does do is express her disappointment over a meeting and give context in terms of things. People can read whatever context they can in that video. I don't understand how people didn't read that video and saw that Sameera was nervous as heck and really just like, like you could see like where Sameera freezes and kind of pauses when Tracy like interrupts her, like in terms of stuff like, I don't know how people didn't read into that in terms of stuff as a young woman who was just kind of startled by the experience, and she gave her feelings about it. Her expressing her feelings about an exchange that was an unfortunately common experience was not cyberbullying. Her expressing disappointment over this exchange is not hate. It's criticism, but it's not hate. Does not fall under that. Meanwhile, the continued abuse, the continued comments pouring into Sameera's space on TikTok. I don't know if she has any other social media platforms, if people have found her like in those ways, continuously coming into her space to dehumanize her in the name of Tracy Deonn is absolutely textbook cyberbullying. And then to do it over the course of weeks, it has not stopped. It has not stopped. It has been continuous. Even at the time that I'm making this video, it's continuing to go through the community, like in terms of things, and people are continuing to mock and belittle and dehumanize Sameera continuously, even without saying her name. And as a result, she's no longer her profile only has one video. She's not, like, the videos that were up are no longer there. She's been effectively silenced and dehumanized. And I want y'all to sit with that in terms of the indignity of all that. Y'all did not have the right to do this to this young woman. Y'all did not have the right. And you may be wondering, okay, Rose, what's the solution to this? What can we do in terms of making this right? First of all, stop abusing Sameera. Leave her alone. That's the first thing I'll tell y'all. Leave her alone. Stop posting the TikToks. Stop posting the videos mocking her. Stop saying that she's entitled. Stop doing all that. Leave her alone. Leave her the fuck alone. That's the first thing you can do. Second of all, if you are supportive of Tracy Deonn, then yeah, you can buy her books, you can write your fan fiction, you can do whatever things. You can not engage with dehumanizing this young woman or dehumanizing anybody, you know, who may have something critical to say about either the Legendborn series or Tracy Deonn herself. Y'all can just not engage with that. It is a choice that y'all have made to engage with that and dehumanize Sameera. This was not something that y'all needed to do. That's the second thing. Third thing, y'all could be doing so many other things, like, other than trying to hunt for critiques or invading other people's spaces online, like where you perceive a threat to your favorite in terms of things. This is where, like I had said towards the beginning of the video, that this community is behaving less like a community and more like a cult. And making Tracy Deonn into a cult of personality in terms of things. And I don't say those terms lightly. Y'all can look up the definitions of what cult of personality and what how a cult functions in terms of stuff. I can link some definitions in the description down below if you're interested in looking at that. But I don't say those terms lightly. And the thing about it is, and I said this before, like earlier this video, I don't fear people turning their backs away from Tracy Deonn or the Legendborn community because of Sameera, because, like, Sameera is just one person in terms of stuff, and she has the right to be critiquing, and she was actually very constructive in terms of things. I am more concerned about the fact that people will turn away from Tracy Deonn and the Legendborn community because of how y'all reacted. Because people will see this behavior and say, why would I want to read Tracy Deonn or the Legendborn series anymore? I can just read another Black author, another Black fantasy author, and not get the same hate. Because y'all were sending the hate. Y'all were sending the hate and the gaslighting and the dehumanization of this young woman. And there were people who were going to be on the outside looking in saying, I don't want to subject myself to that. And it's a silencing effect, a chilling effect in terms of stuff that can have repercussions that y'all don't see. If you're not chronically online or if you're not outside of the Legendborn community itself. And me speaking outside of the Legendborn community, like, people have tried to do this to me when I was criticizing the Legendborn series. Again, this isn't about me. I saw pieces of it, like, in terms of my responses to my critical reviews of Bloodmarked and Oathbound based on events that happened. And those are still posted on my channel. But if this behavior is allowed to go unchecked or unaddressed and continues to proliferate, like whether it's friends of Tracy Deonn doing this, other authors who feel the need to speak up for Tracy when they don't know her, like a parasocial relationship, whether it's fans who have a parasocial relationship with Tracy Deonn in the Legendborn series, if this behavior is allowed to continue, then you will turn more people away than you will invite in. And I want y'all to sit with that. Is that something that y'all want? Yeah, like, you want a gated community in terms of where you invite nobody in, that nobody's allowed to critique Tracy Deonn or the Legendborn series or have any kind of discussion or dialogue? Because that's not fun and that's not realistic. You know? I think there are a lot of people who would be doing better in terms of things, you know, with how we operate as a bookish community, and even within the Legendborn like fandom, y'all can treat people better than the way that you do. This was not an instance where you were treating somebody well, or even acting in a way that was appropriate or acceptable. And I think at the end of this video, in concluding my thoughts in terms of things, my first thought is leave Sameera alone. That's the first thing. Second thing, be more mindful that the second thing that I will say is critique is not hate. Y'all are doing disservice to the severity of hate by equating critique or any kind of thing that speaks against the person that you love or the thing that you love. You're doing the disservice by equating any kind of pushback to hate, which is a wholly different thing. It's not an ism and it's not a phobia. Like having critique of an encounter or an experience or a thing like reading the Legendborn series, that is like being critical of it is not equivalent to hate. And to put a point in it, my third thing is to say, y'all are not the judge, jury, and executioner over other people's feelings on things. If it is not your experience, you do not have the right to assume anything. If it is not your experience, you do not have the right to assume anything or to humanize or do anything to silence the people who have those feelings in terms of things. Sameera deserved better. Sameera deserves so much better. And I hope that people come away and from this video looking at it from the outside and looking at horror, how horrifying this is and how dehumanizing it was, and that as a community, as a bookish community, and even within the Legendborn community, y'all can do better. And I hope that's the takeaway that you get from this respective video, barring anything else. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, thank you. I don't know how long this video is going to be. Editing me is, like I said, it's going to be having a nightmare, like in terms of trying to see what pieces I'm going to include and what not to. But I hope y'all get something from the discussion, and I hope that, you know, you can, like, if also nothing else, y'all will listen to Sameera and say, like, treat other people better than what y'all do. And that's all we can do in terms of things. And we can absolutely have conversations about how to make conventions better, how to improve them in terms of things, and how to make sure people are being met where they are in terms of interactions and things like that. But attacking people in this way is not the solution. So I will leave y'all with that. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be informed of when I post new videos. Thank you so much again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next video, and hopefully with a happier discussion in tow in terms of things. And then my last words to Sameera, I hope you're doing okay. I hope you are. And, you know, I and others in the community, you know, if you need anything, just feel free to reach out. Even though we're not on the same platform, I hope you'll reach out if you need anything. So, bye y'all.